Welcome to Just Wanna Quilt, a research podcast coming out of Tulane University Law School, where we explore all kinds of things, stories about quilting, tools, field trips, maybe some famous quilters stop by, and of course a little bit of copyright thrown in just for fun. I'm Dr. Elizabeth Townsend Guard. I'm a law professor, and I just want to quilt. Our guest today is Heather Kubiak. She is an attorney, and she is also a quilter. She is such a fabulous attorney and quilter that she has classes at the Houston Quilt Market and Houston Quilt Festival on copyright and also business strategies. She is awesome. Anyway, we are super excited to talk with her today, and she has joined our quilting army, so we're hoping to have her back a bunch of times. So let's welcome Heather. Tell us again, because we messed up on the sound, so one more time. Heather, tell us the first, your first memory of someone sewing or quilting.
My grandmother, my father's mother, Olga, was from Germany. She was an avid seamstress. She had 7 children, and she kept an under-the-bed box of patterns. When I would show up to her farm that was outside of Baton Rouge in Clinton, Louisiana, she would pull that out and she would find a pattern and make clothes for me in honor of my visit.
That's really cool.
She did start quilting later, but sewing garments was the first experience.
It's really cool. And I know a little bit of your story, but how did you come to quilting?
I'm a lawyer and was looking for some creative outlet. I had adopted a child and wanted her to have a chance to love dolls. And so I decided I wanted to learn how to make doll clothes. And I started dabbling in that. Then I had my own child a year or so later. And when she was about to move into her big girl bed, I thought, I'm going to make her a quilt. I was hooked.
Yeah, it's pretty awesome. And what's cool about you is that you combined quilting and lawyering in a way, right? So tell us a little bit about how that happened and sort of what your life is like with that.
Once I started quilting, I never looked back. And when I started getting involved with Quilts Inc. here in Houston, Texas, where I live, I wanted to get my foot in the door. I wanted to teach quilting classes and sewing classes. But as I looked around, I realized what a misinformation there was about copyright, trademark, patents, and that's part of my practice. And I just walked up and introduced myself to the head of Quilts Inc. And I said, I think there's a need for this kind of education. And she said, I think you're right. And so I've kind of come in the back door to the quilting world that way.
Cool. Can you tell, in case people don't know, what is Quilts Inc. and why did you say because it's Houston? It's located in Houston, right? They're based in Houston?
Yes, Quilts Inc. is based here in Houston. It's an organization that puts on quilt shows and the International Quilt Show and Festival, which is Houston's largest convention for the whole year, which I find fascinating. It's not offshore technology conference, which most people think. But if you come to the festival that's put on by Quilts Inc. here in Houston, you'll see people from almost every continent, and it's a place where everybody gathers together to share their love of this art.
Yeah, it's kind of, they let me come, which was super, super great this year to sort of observe and learn about it as a scholar, and it is the most amazing thing I've ever experienced. It's like, first, you have the business, the market. So tell people about what market is in case they don't know.
The first thing that happens is market. It's where all of the industry professionals converge to network, to determine what new products are out there, and to show everyone what's new. And there's education goes on during that time, but a lot of just talking and networking and moving things forward.
Yeah, it's remarkable. And it's huge. I mean, it is, I think, 27 aisles? I mean, it fills the Houston Convention Center. It's just incredible. So that lasts for like 5 days. And yes. Then when you're completely exhausted and you think you can go on no more, 50,000 people arrive for the second half of it. So it's remarkable. There's like a down day of maybe 36 hours where like the business people leave, some of them, and shops come in, and then we're ready to go again. And so tell us how market is different than festival. Festival's that second half.
The only downside is that the show floor isn't open, but classes are going on. The third floor of the Houston Convention Center is jam-packed with hundreds of classes.
Hundreds of classes, and they're all like almost at max capacity. It's incredible to sort of that. I walked through the classrooms one day, and it was incredible. I mean, it was magical in some ways. So the classes go on all week long, and as you said, they are going on when the festival is down, and then the festival opens, and there's a lot of happy people. It's kind of remarkable.
Well, it's the kind of place where you can go ask someone, may I join your table, and then immediately launch into how you love to smell fabric while you iron it. And there's not another place where people will smile at you when you say that. I mean,
it's true.
Not just smile, but really identify. And then there's the sewing lounges for people who are not even taking classes or wanting to buy anything. The sewing machine companies have huge rooms set up with machines there for your use. It's such a community of like-minded people, and it's powerful.
Yeah, it really is. And they have lots of ridiculous things like Quiltapalooza and Iron Quilt Challenge, and they kind of it's really fun. And as you said, like people somehow suddenly become your best friends in seconds, and it's very it's pretty amazing. People said that it takes a while to get over it once you get home, and I have to say that I definitely experienced the hangover of Quilt Market and Quilt Festival once I got back to New Orleans.
That's funny you say that, because I feel that way, and that's interesting. I hadn't ever had anyone say that to me, but I always feel a little depressed when it's over. But it's coming back. You got just another year to wait.
Yeah, I think we're gonna try to go to a couple others this year just to sort of experience it. But I suspect that they'll be very different experience. This is very like the whole world has come together for quilting, and it's very, I don't know, and sort of the people who put it on, they're good people, and it sort of you can feel that as you're there for the week and a half, like who they hire and their outlook and sort of what they're doing. It's very professional, but there is a kindness throughout all of it that is really remarkable.
Yes, I would love to go to Paducah. I hear it is also quite the experience, but I have not done it myself.
Yes, we want to have a big group go to Paducah and descend on them to do interviews and learn of all the Paducah ways. Yes, and this one also goes. Quilts Inc. goes to Chicago. Have you been to the Chicago one?
I haven't. I was thinking about coming this year.
Yeah, me too. I think it'd be really interesting to see how similar or different it is. Like, is it Houston that makes it so kind of friendly? Because Chicago's not really. I mean, Chicago's lovely. I really like Chicago. Don't get me wrong, but it's got a different vibe. So I'm really curious what the show feels like in a different place.
Been to Spring Market in Salt Lake City, and it has a little different vibe, but it's the same people putting it on.
Yeah,
so.
Interesting. Okay, well, so our project. So tell me a little bit about your strategy, what your thoughts are. So you're the person to go to if you have a quilting issue. If you're a designer or anything to do with quilting, like. You're the person they should go see. Tell us more sort of how you developed into this person that really understands, and why it matters that your attorney understands what you're doing. Because I can say, like, we saw a video, there's another group, I won't say who they are, but there's another group, and they keep putting out these really stupid videos. And they clearly know nothing about fabric or quilting, but they're trying to get that business, which I thought was really interesting. And when I went to see you, it was completely the opposite. You're able to translate the discourse of the law into things that people understand when you're a quilter. That's kind of what I saw with you. And I'm curious how that started. Obviously, it started when you started doing lectures at Quilting at the market. What happened after that? How did you start to become the person that
Let me kind of back into the answer to that question. And I guess the long and the short of it is that I have had a career of representing very large corporations, and my intent isn't to get the business. And I think instead, I want to educate people so that they can have the tools to handle their own legal issues, because getting a lawyer or having a lawyer is expensive.
Right.
And I don't think it's right that lawyers hoard their special knowledge, because it can be taught. And my intention is to teach people a large framework and to let them have the tools to figure out the answers to their own questions. I also see that in this industry, I think there's a lot of misinformation in thinking that intellectual property protects more than it does. And I encourage people to collaborate and share their intellectual property instead of trying to hold on to it. I think it's better for the designer. I think it gets them more exposure, which translates into more success. And I just encourage people not to try to use the law as some sort of sword.
Yeah, it's interesting. I think as we go, it will be interesting to see sort of why, at what point do people turn to the law and why, whether it's, out of spite or out of fear that their economics value is going to be impacted. But I think, I really am right on the same page with you, because I think that it's really thinking through what is economically important to you, what is personally important to you, and then recognizing where law fits. Because copyright law is not what people think it is most of the time, I think.
And as I like to say, and you know this as a fellow lawyer, I know you are a lawyer, but copyright's probably one of the murkiest areas of the law. It is so subjective, and it's not like, there are a lot of areas in the law that are much more clearly delineated. Copyright is not one of those.
No, it's not.
And so that's more dangerous, and it's very, very expensive. And I think anecdotally, the two ways I see people coming into getting involved with the law aspect, the legal aspect, is either out of fear, or it is after in a defensive mode, because I've seen or heard stories where people threaten protection where none exists to try to get a leg up, and then the person who's being threatened gets sucked down the vortex of the whole legal system. And I'd like to avoid that, for people to avoid that. It's almost never worth it.
Yeah, no, it's just, there's other ways to solve your problem. A copyright lawsuit is not the way to go. I think there are some situations, like when we're looking at there's 119 fabric cases that have been tried in federal court. It has to be federal court. But we're looking at all of them to sort of try to understand at what point people actually sue and what the courts have done with them. And we have only seen cases that are manufacturer to manufacturer, or designer to manufacturer, that really where copyright law is coming into play in large part, at least in copyright lawsuits, is in very serious commercial settings. That's the majority. They're going all the way through and getting an opinion in the courts. Have you found that to be the case too?
Yes, but from an anecdotal standpoint, walking around the market and talking to people that I admire in the quilting industry, almost everybody's had some brush with it. I have some interesting stories, although I hesitate to give them at this point without getting permission. Yeah. But a lot of times you see, certainly the more successful people, just really able to work out a good solution by just picking up the phone and calling. person that their see as being offensive.
Yeah.